Hello everyone, this is Alden here, and well, technically future Alden here. Before the video starts, I want to say that there is some stuff in this video that's not exactly correct, or I should say 100% correct. I worked very hard on this video, and I was going to retake it, but my computer decided it doesn't like recording on OBS anymore, nor does it like VTube Studio anymore, and I decided to use my VTuber model for this video. So I'm at the very end of the video, I'm going to try and tie all of the information that I give together into a single cohesive story to try and explain away why I think this theory is correct, or rather, what I think happened because I already think this theory is correct. If you're going to go with a theory or make a theory, you gotta at least give a story as to why it is the way that it is. And I'm going to be doing that here. And with that, I'm going to explain some of the things that I got wrong. You know, if I can't figure out how to do OBS. So, without further ado, I give you the rest of the video and I will see you at the end. Hello everyone, my name is Alden, and welcome to my lab. I know this is the first time you're seeing this, but that's because this is the first time I'm showing it. Normally I'm very private about my laboratory here, but I figure since we're doing theories, I might as well show you where I do the majority of my research. Do not question the tube in the background. And I have my little thing right here with me. This is, I know it looks like a simple board, but it's actually a screen. It shows things on it. Isn't that fantastic? What am I talking about? You've seen this before in my other video. I am sorry. I'm just I'm just gonna go into the thing now and show you or read. I mean, well, you're here to listen to theories, right? Well, I am here to oblige. So, theory number 2. The ladybug has the lost power of destruction. Now, alright, here is where we get into some really deep conspiracies. Now, I actually need to split this into different mini theories, so this is going to be a bit on the longer side. But that's going to make the overall theory make more sense and make it a little easier to digest, I think. Alright, mini theory 1. The black cat miraculous has lost its power, slash, the ladybug and the black cat miraculous just aren't equal at all. Well, that's kind of more supporting evidence. So, this is something that everyone knows. Everyone who has ever watched the show has seen that Cat Noir isn't anywhere near the level of Ladybug, which, on the one hand, is to be expected. Adrian is not the main character, Marinette is. But when you introduce the idea that these two powers are equal, and then you continuously show how one is clearly superior to the other, a few red flags tend to raise themselves. Cat Noir can't even destroy a stack of cards. I mean, they were magic cards of a super villain, Simon Says, sure, but I mean, he used Cataclysm on it and then had to give it to Ladybug, who broke it by throwing it on the ground. Did he like turn it into glass or something? I mean, his power isn't transmutation; it's destruction, and this kind of thing happens way more than you think it would. Like in the episode The Pharaoh, or an episode Simon Says, where Cat Noir gets trapped behind bars in a museum. Happens surprising amount. I mean, it only happens twice, but it's really weird that it happened twice. What his cataclysm does to the bars is it makes them really brittle, and then he has to go and physically break them in order to get out of the cage. Later on in Copycat, however, he is shown to be able to completely disintegrate a tile of something wood. I think I think it's probably wood. However, after that, almost immediately after that, Copycat, you know, his copy, whose power is basically just Cat Noir, um, is able to completely disintegrate a chain, a steel chain, the similar material, or probably a similar material, to the what the metal bars are made out of that kept Cat Noir in his little cage, that Cat Noir can't physically break himself out of. We see that he can't physically break himself out of because, he would have done that. Um, so he's able to completely disintegrate that, which, if you think, a chain is more than just like a steel rod. It's a bunch of metal bits stuck together, chained together. He's just able to destroy not only what he's touching, but the entire chain. Meaning, his cataclysm can not only completely disintegrate metal, which Cat Noir can't do, but it can also stretch from object to object, making it a little bit more powerful than what Cat Noir was capable of doing. Um, However, Cat Noir was able to, in episode Timebreaker, completely destroy a statue by, you know, making cracks form all around it, and then it just kind of has a force is applied to it in a direction, so it's kind of like a concussive blast rather than complete and total atomic annihilation, which the power of absolute destruction is. I mean, it is destruction, so I can't really. I can't really say that it's not destruction. So it would appear that the true miraculous of the Black Cat seems to be rather situational. Another example of it being situational would be in episode Antibug, where Cataclysm was able to cause cracks throughout what appears to be a glass covering for a pool. Um, but the only part of the covering that really gives out is directly underneath the villain of that episode, Antibug, where it, collapses under her weight and she has her lower half stuck in it. So she can't really move around or get out of it. Another weird thing that I just thought of now that we're speaking about Antibug is Antibug's Lucky Charm, I don't think was as powerful as Ladybug's Lucky Charm. Although it was an anti-charm, not really a lucky charm. So, I mean, it should be the same power but inverted, which I guess means that it's just less useful. I don't know. Or maybe Chloe just couldn't think of how to use it in a way that would actually win the fight, and Ladybug is more creative. I mean, she was more creative anyway, but I just found it really weird that Copycat was able to use Cat Noir's power better than Cat Noir would, and Chloe can't, or Antibug can't. Got to go off of the supervillain names here, since they were, in their supervillain forms. Their thought processes is a little corrupted, so I don't think that it's really fair. Although Chloe's just evil regardless. I'm getting sidetracked. Now, Cat Noir isn't useless. It's just that when compared to Ladybug, who has the power of getting the instant win card, so long as she's creative enough to know how to use it, which she is always creative enough to know how to use it, and having the ability to reverse all damage done by an Akuma attack, and Cat Noir's Cataclysm, and just about everything else, and the ability to purify Akuma. Of course, it's not so bad, I guess. They are still relatively. I suppose you could make an argument that Cat Noir's sheer versatility allows him to kind of mitigate that or offset that imbalance, making it a little more even. But then we get into the physical feats, and it's not so good for our boy here. It's not so good. So, to start off, Ladybug completely outclasses him. Um, as demonstrated no better in episode Stormy Weather, where first, Ladybug can effortlessly dodge cars that are flying at her at high speed, while Cat Noir is able to do so basically by luck alone. She was even able to push Chat out of the way of a bolt of lightning after it was fired, while all Cat Noir could do was look up, gasp, and not be able to save himself. And Ladybug can even fight multiple supervillains at once and a brainwashed Cat Noir at the same time and win. I will say in this instance I'm talking about, they were controlled by Puppeteer, who was a literal child, and Ladybug had used her lucky charm, so that's kind of an instant win. But then she beats Chad again in episode Princess Fragrance when he was once again mind controlled, and again in the Valentine's Day special Dark Cupid. And I'm sure you can see where I'm kind of going with this. And to end this section off, how about we talk about a little episode called Dark Blade. At the end of the episode, although it isn't clear if this is happening or not, but it appears that Chat Noir is going to de-transform due to his time limit after using his powers. However, Cat Noir didn't use his powers during this episode. I mean, Cat Noir, have I been flip-flopping Cat Noir and Chat Noir this entire time? It's Chat Noir in French. I mean, it's the same thing. It's Black Cat. They just can't call him Black Cat in English because we already have the Spider-Man. We already have Spider-Man Black Cat, so we can't really do that. Is there another Black Cat? There might be another Black Cat too. So we really can't. Chat Noir. I'm just gonna say Chat Noir. I'm gonna try to stick to Chat Noir. I'm sorry if I've been flip-flopping. I just kind of noticed that. Chat Noir didn't need to worry about de-transforming because he never used his powers, meaning he wouldn't time out. And he wouldn't need to worry about de-transforming so he could be with his classmates, as he wasn't there at that time when all of that happened. He wasn't at the book signing, he wasn't at the album signing because they were at a meeting with Jagged Stone, I think. Right? That's what was going on with Dark Blade? Yes. So he doesn't need to worry about that because he wasn't at the album signing. And he doesn't need to worry about his father getting suspicious because he was outside of his house when Darkblade took over. So he could just as easily make an excuse. Who's going to check if whatever he says is true? He could just appear somewhere. and he could just say, oh, I was taken over by Darkblade. Doesn't need to worry about de-transforming to be with his classmates. Doesn't need to worry about anything. It's weird. It's weird what happened. And this also happened again in episode The Pharaoh, where Alia points at his miraculous like it's timing out, but there's no audio cue. But with his reaction, it would seem like his miraculous is in fact timing out. Of course, he also cut off Plag while he was eating, meaning he might not have been fully charged, which I guess would be a possible explanation, except I don't think that was ever a probable explanation. I don't think it was ever given in the show. So ultimately, to me, it just looks like his powers are very unreliable. Alright, mini theory number 2. Restoration is more than just creation. So, by this point, we have established that Ladybug can restore anything that has been previously destroyed by an Akuma attack, or Chat Noir's Cataclysm, or anything, really. Most of the time, yeah, it's entirely the power of creation. Let's go through a few examples. An object gets broken apart. The Ladybug's power could just create a force pushing the two halves of a broken object together and then recreate the bond between the molecules. Boom. Creation. And this kind of thing would happen a lot in episode Eve Illustrator and in episode The Mime, just as a couple of examples. Even in episode Stormy Weather, when Ladybug gets rid of an ice dome that is about to kill Alia and a small child whose name I have a very hard time pronouncing for some reason. appears to create an immense amount of heat, which causes the ice to undergo sublimation, which is where ice gets so hot that it just turns directly into steam. There's no melting involved. Which, by the way, to heat up all that ice that fast would need a lot of heat. I know magic is just a good explanation for this, but how did Alia and the kid not get burned? Probably just magic, but I I just it's probably just magic. But when the first time I saw that, I was like, how are you not incinerated? Or at least have like mild burns. Anyway, all of that only proves how the ladybug miraculous is capable of restoring without destroying. So, why am I set on them being able to destroy things too? Well, several reasons, actually. Let's start off with the most confusing one. Time Breaker, because every good TV show needs to have time travel, right? It only makes sense. Anyway, in this episode, as the title suggests, Ladybug must deal with an Akuma with time manipulation powers abilities thingy. But let's get right to the end, shall we? So at the very end, Ladybug undoes all of the damage, which means that the Ladybugs, as there are two of them at this point, and the Alexes fuse into one entity, maybe, and everything goes back to the way it was. And by one entity, I mean the two Alexes fuse into one Alex, and the two Ladybugs fuse into one Ladybug. Just saying that they all fuse into one entity kind of does. It's not what I meant to say. It's that would be weird. It's like Metamorph fusion from Dragon Ball. Anyway. And the reason I said maybe they fuse is because it really isn't clear whether or not they fuse. It's kind of implied that they fuse. That they fuse together, because you've got like two Alexes on different sides, and then the ladybug magic thing swirls around them, and then it's just there's one Alex left over in between where the two were standing, and it's just one. And the same thing with the ladybug. So it's kind of implied that they fuse into one. But it could also be explained by saying like two timelines. The ladybug creates another timeline, and then the restoration just kind of throws them into its own timeline. You know, the copies. And yeah, there, problem solved. Ladybug uses the power of creation to solve the problem. But that doesn't solve this tiny problem of my avatar freaking the hell out. But it doesn't solve this tiny problem called Marinette's parents. Because, you see, it could just be coincidence, but they kind of said something that they would have only known before Marinette went back in time with Timebreaker. In short, Marinette was able to deliver a cake on the second go-around to the news reporter lady without getting in trouble. But the first time, she didn't get to do that. She ended up getting a call from her parents scolding her, and her dad made the excuse that she was listening to music and didn't notice that the reporter was there to pick up her cake. However, in this new timeline, both are somehow true, because Marinette delivered the cake, but then her mom was like, oh, maybe next time you shouldn't be sitting in your room listening to loud music. Maybe then you would have heard the person at the door ringing the doorbell, and you could get them their cake on time. She did get them the cake on time. Okay, she was a little bit late, but she did get the cake on time. Very weird. The only scenario that Ladybug could get away with only using the power of creation is Timebreaker and Ladybug go back in time, erasing everything that happened. And we know that because Timebreaker's power is to go backwards in time, not create a new timeline or timeline hop. Ladybug wins with the help of her past self and past chat noir, as well as 2 lucky charms. Ladybug's reversal power fixes the damage done, creates an entirely new timeline, then takes one of the Ladybugs and one of the Alexes and places them in the new timeline, then gives the Du Pen Chang family the memories of what happened prior to the time anomaly, while leaving the previous memories intact, somehow not altering it at all because creation cannot destroy, simply adding to it. As well as bringing back all the people Timebreaker froze in time / removed from time. This would be a fine explanation, but why? Remember, time was rewritten entirely. They didn't need those extra memories. Adding them didn't fix anything. If anything, it was far more damaging because now they know something that never actually happened. And I'm also completely disregarding the fact that the show straight up implies that the 2 Alexes and 2 Ladybugs fuse into 1 Alex and 1 Ladybug, which is impossible if Ladybug can only create. Think of all the extra matter that would have been in their bodies. They would weigh twice as much, which, I mean, would be fine for Ladybug because she's magic, but what about Alex? Or Marinette when she turns back, unless, of course, the Ladybug Miraculous can bend the laws of physics, but... Which, by the way, is also not the power of creation. But again, this idea isn't without its holes. I mean, listening to music, loud music, could just be a part of Marinette's personality. We kind of see that when she's a fan of Jagged Stone. But then it's also a matter of, you know, how responsible is she? And we know that she flaked out. We know she flaked out. She went to support her Alex in that race thing that happened. But her parents know that she answered the door. Quote unquote. She was there. So you can't really say that she was listening to loud music. She's naturally clumsy. She might have just fallen down the stairs or something and had to pick herself up. Took a little bit of extra time. No reason to make the excuse that she was listening to loud music. I don't know. I know I'm just overthinking this, but it's also time travel, so like all of the details matter. All of the details matter. Also, it's just fun to come up with ideas. But in case that didn't quite make you think that Ladybug can destroy, I have more. Ladybug just straight up deletes a sword that Antibug created in episode Antibug. So Antibug creates a sword using her anti-charm, and Ladybug deletes it. With her reversal powers, she just deletes it. We see it happens. We see it happen. It's there, and then it's not there. It exists, and then it's gone. That's it. There's nothing left to theorize here. It existed, and then it didn't. Case is firmly closed. Whoa. You could also argue that Ladybug's lucky charms also get destroyed, but I don't really count that because the lucky charms are just kind of, I think of it as more of just, it's morphing into a new kind of magic, you know what I mean? It's just morphing into its true form. And then, don't even get me started on Kung Fu's caramel. It's literally encasing the entire building, preventing people from entering or exiting, and then it's gone. It's just gone. It leaves. It disappears. And the same thing happens with Horrificator's horror goo thing. It's the same thing as Kung Fu's caramel, basically. And then there's also Roger Carp, where the Lucky Charm makes his weird magic cup things disappear. Like, where did they go? I know that it's magic, and she could like dispel magic, right? That's creation. Well, I mean, I guess she could create magic dispelling energy, but like that seems kind of cheaty. Like, if you allow that, then she could just create destruction. That's overpowered. No. Her power is creation. But still, her power is it's creation. It's not dispelling magic. It technically isn't even purification. I mean, purification is the removal of an evil force. If anything, that should be Chat Noir's power because he destroys things. He could destroy the evil inside the Akuma and leave the rest be. You think it would be difficult for somebody who has the power of pure destruction? Actually, yes, that sounds very difficult for someone who has that. That sounds like it wouldn't end very well. But it also makes a lot more sense than somebody who is just pure creation destroying evil. Like that just doesn't fit in her wheelhouse, really. Welcome back to the coffee shop with me, Alden, as we get into the grand mystery of why. Why would ladybugs, miraculous, have the power of destruction? Why would they do this to Plagg, take away his power, the core of his very being? So, sit down, let me spin you a little tale. A rather complex story, if you think about it, trying to put all of this together in the story. That's a really weird way of me putting it. Just sit down and enjoy your coffee. It's on the house. Good old theory beans right there in the back. At least I think that's theory beans in the back. I don't know. I don't feel like turning my head to check. No, wait. Before we get into the why the miraculous doesn't have all of its power and Tiki has some of it, we need to go into some of the other things that I missed. First of all, being that Cat Noir actually can destroy steel. There are a number of times when that happens, like an episode of Volpina, he destroys a bunch of steel bars off the Eiffel Tower. In episode Horrificator, he does the same thing. He destroys some steel pipes, I think. I'm assuming all of these things are steel, by the way. I don't actually know. I didn't look that up. But they're metal. They are metal. It's just most of the time he's just weakening stuff. So, the first thing we gotta look at is confirming that Cat Noir really isn't in ancient Egypt. That's kind of the cornerstone of this whole thing, you know? Because Plagg and Tiki are a pair. They're in the same miraculous box, for goodness sake. And while it might not have always been like that, it's kind of shown to us that it has been. At least in Season 1, that they're a pair. We have no reason to assume that they were anything but a pair and together always. Especially since ancient Egypt, they love cats. That's kind of a thing. And yet, taking a closer look at the scroll, which I did, here's an image of the scroll, so you can too, and I'm going to circle this little bit right here, and you know what that is? That's Tiki. Tiki is in this scroll before Cat Noir, or ancient Cat Noir, was. So, this super secret Kwame that nobody is supposed to know about is in the scroll before Ladybug's partner. That's a little weird, and leads us to believe that Cat Noir wasn't in ancient Egypt at all. So how can both of these things be true? These things being Cat Noir not being in Egypt, and the Ladybug and Black Cat miraculouses being a part of a pair. Well, let's get a little more in depth. Let's crunch some numbers here, shall we? So what are the chances that no one would be chosen for the Black Cat miraculous? Well, according to Google, because I use Google a lot, the average number of citizens in an ancient Egyptian city can range from around 1,300 to 3,000 people. Now, let's give each one of those people a coin flip of a chance to become the Black Cat. Let's call it a Schrodinger's cat kind of comparison. Every single person both is and is not capable of becoming the Black Cat. So, by giving each person a coin flip, we say 50%. So that's 1/2. Then we move on to the next person, and that's also a 1/2. But they both got it wrong. What are the chances that two people are both not it? Well, you just multiply the chances together. So that's 25%. Then half of 25%. Then half of that. So at maximum, you have 1/2 to the 1,300th power. And if you put that into a calculator, like I did, you get 0. Because it is such an insignificant number, it's not even humored. At least for my calculator, it's not. I use Desmos, the scientific calculator, or graphing calculator, whichever. But yeah, the likelihood that nobody gets chosen to be the Black Cat, that's just not going to happen. I think that they were scared of Plague. The holders and the masters of the miraculous box, the guardians of the miraculous, if you will. I think that they were scared of Plague. Think about it. He is a destroyer at his very core. He can destroy anything that he touches. And it's very probable that, like Adrian, the other holders couldn't control his power. And if he's weaker now than he was then, think of the damage that could be caused by runaway powers. Instead of a concussive blast, it could be a force of sheer annihilation, destroying everything in its path. Chaining not just from the object he's trying to destroy, but an entire building. Instead of breaking down a wall or a door or a chain, it spreads to the floor. It spreads to the entire building. It could spread to the earth beneath your feet. That's not a power anybody wants around. So what did they do? Well, at first, they just didn't pick anyone. They selectively chose not to have the Black Cat Miraculous used. But eventually, they needed a Black Cat. After all, you can't have creation without destruction. They need each other. They are the yin and the yang. So, how do you allow this creature of untold destruction that no one can properly control? How do you rein that in? By taking away its power and giving it to something you can control. Tiki. I propose that out of fear, they took some of Plague's powers, and gave it to Tiki. Maybe even without anyone knowing. Probably without anyone knowing. I mean, the Kwami would probably hold that against them a little bit. Or maybe they wouldn't care. Who am I to say? Who is texting me? So, in short, because of how dangerous the Black Cat Miraculous can be, a portion of its power was stripped and given to a Kwami who was easier to control, the antithesis of Plague's chaos. Tiki. This not only made Plague's powers easier to control for himself and for a holder, but it also granted Tiki a plethora of new abilities. Plague gains an array of powers. It makes him more adaptable to situations, especially since he's not just obliterating everything. And Tiki can reverse all damage, not just create replacements or repair things that have been broken, but she can remove things that were never supposed to exist. And she can purify corruption by removing the evil within that corruption, be it a butterfly or a feather. And that's the theory. So, tell me what you thought of the theory and what you thought of my lab. Do you want me to go back to this style where it's just a PNG of me in a coffee shop talking to you one-on-one like this? Or do you prefer my VTuber model? I'm working on trying to get my computer to like it again so that I can continue with that. But tell me what you think. And feel free to poke holes in my theory. I enjoy it when people do that. After all, you cannot have a good theory without people trying to tear it to shreds. That only makes the theories better, because at the end of the day, this is all just for fun. And the more holes you poke in, the more work I have to put into making it seem stable, in order to make it stable, not just seem stable. That was me misspeaking. I'm not good with words, but I am good with coffee. Alright, I'm gonna go now before I make an even greater fool of myself. Like the video if you like the video. Don't if you don't. Don't worry about subscribing, because I haven't done anything yet, except sip on this delicious coffee. Wonderful. I love my theory water, my theory juice. Alright, I'll see you guys next time, and give yourself a treat. You deserve it. Bye-bye!